I used to hate a freight broker. What they're trying to do is take my money. We started with those 25 trucks I was talking about. I've been broke twice, so we still have about 400 reefers, but we got out of about 2,000 reefers. How is freight going to go? And so when you make that decision, then it really knocks down the wall and says it's going to go the way it's going to go. But the most important thing in my life is my relationship with Christ.
Back in December, we traveled to Chattanooga, Tennessee. It has the highest concentration of employees in logistics in the entire United States. US Express, Covenant, Steam, Dynamo, Access America, FreightWaves, Sonar. We put together this 80-page magazine here about the history of Chattanooga, and it's all about Freight Alley. It's not the full interview. We also want to provide more value for our subscribers to the magazine. Therefore, if you would like to listen to the full interview, subscribe to our print magazine by going to print.freightcaviar.com. There's a 30-day trial. If you don't like it, we'll give you your money back, so there's really no risk.
David Parker, CEO of Covenant, founder of Covenant. You know, we changed our name a few years ago to Logistics because we started becoming just with a wide range of service offerings. Mm-hmm. And so to make sure that the public could really understand us, because we're really a logistics company that's got some assets. But we're probably 60-40% of our freight is asset driven and 40% is not. And so we really zeroed in on all aspects of the needs of our customers.
When did Covenant start?
January, we'll be celebrating our 40th anniversary.
And it was you and your wife?
Yes, that's right.
And her name's Jacqueline.
Jacqueline, yes. Jacqueline, she retired 10 years ago.
Good for her.
And is loving it.
Yeah.
You know, she just last week turned 68, and I turned 68 in September, and she at 58, she said, I've had enough of this trucking. But she's very still actively involved in the board meetings.
She must do the decorating in here.
Well, she has done some of this decorating, and actually when we built this building in 1997, my mother did most of the decorating.
Oh, okay.
And then we've had to remodel. We've had a lot of stuff, but we've had outside decorators. So it's a beautiful place.
So kind of the focus of the film, just more broadly, is just Chattanooga and the freight ecosystem, the trucking ecosystem that's kind of grown up here over the last 50, 60, 70 years at this point. Yeah. And you've obviously got an interesting connection to all that, and you kind of grew up around it too.
Yes.
So what was, I guess, growing up around here? Your exposure was probably more prominent than most people who grew up around here. What was it like growing up here in Chattanooga?
You know, first of all, my father, Clyde Fuller, my stepfather. My dad died when I was 2 years old, mm-hmm. So my stepfather raised me. Max Fuller's father, mm-hmm. And he was in trucking, and so I got in trucking. I was doing 40-hour work weeks at 15 years old. Mm-hmm. I think I've got 8 or 10 hours of college, but mine was just all trucking. It's what I loved. And so starting at a very young age, I mean, I'm 68 today, and that's 15 when I started, so that's 53 years ago that I started in trucking. And so my father taught me everything that I know. Now, he was not in logistics. He was strictly trucks. But back before deregulation, he had one of the largest trucking companies in America. Mm-hmm. When we were doing $63 million of revenue and running 500 trucks, pre-deregulation was a big trucking company. Mm-hmm. And so that's what really got my roots and got me into the industry.
And so you were working kind of every angle of
everything,
every angle of the company from the beginning.
At a very young age. I mean, no doubt we had segments. My first job that I had in trucking was logs, keeping up with the logs of the drivers. And so that was the first job. And then I got into operations and sales. And that's the areas that I excelled in and the areas that I loved. And the areas that I love today is operations and sales.
Mm-hmm. We've heard some stories so far about Clyde. He seemed to be a pretty larger than life character.
Well, there's a picture. You can see him up there.
Yeah.
And as you see the picture there, that's what you see there is his personality. That's who he is. Mm-hmm. Trucking, oil wells. He was an entrepreneur that was the smartest guy that I know. And it was just unbelievable. He was a character, though.
Back when I was brokering freight full-time, my day didn't end when a load delivered. That's actually when the real mess began. Tracking down PODs, dealing with rate disputes, and getting hit with random calls from factoring companies. Total time suck. I wish I had something like ePay Manager back then. They built a platform that keeps brokers, carriers, and factors all on the same page. It actually makes the back office feel organized. If you're still piecing together spreadsheets and emails, this will save you hours. If you're tired of wasting time post-load, go to epaymanager.com or text ePayFC to 80483.
Was it a foregone conclusion that you were going to be in trucking?
I just loved it.
Yeah.
It was my foregone conclusion. It's what I wanted to do.
Sure.
I never forget, at 16 years old, a large company that everybody would know their name if I mention it because they're still a large company today, came in and had discussions about buying the company when I was 16 years old. And I remember them talking to me, we want you to stay if we do this. And I said, I just got to be honest with you. My goal is to own my own one day. Mm-hmm. And so I had that entrepreneurial spirit, that desire at 16 years old to know where my final destination was going to be.
And so you ended up starting Covenant alongside your wife at 28?
28.
Okay.
Yes.
And that was in 1985,
Six.
Yeah.
We incorporated in October or November of 85, but first day of operating was January of 1986.
And it was called Covenant from the beginning?
It was called Covenant.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, Covenant is one of the most important thing in my life is my relationship with Jesus. Much more important. And I still work. Thank the Lord. Paul Bunn, my president, has allowed me to go to 50 hours a week instead of 70 as he continues to grow in his position. So I still work a lot of hours, but the most important thing in my life is my relationship with Christ. And I work on that relationship, and it's a relationship that I love and enjoy and brings me peace and all the things that he brings, that I receive. So that said, even when as a young person, I tried to live a Christian life. And like everybody, we fail and we do good and we do bad and those kind of things, but I had it deep within me. And in trying to determine what God wanted me to do with my life, because we left, all three of us, Max, myself, and another gentleman by the name of Pat Quinn that's now passed away. The three of us were running Southwest Motor Freight, my father's company. And we left in July of 1985 from the new buyers. He sold the company, and we stayed on for about 6 or 7 months. The first thing he did was close the books to us. So we had no idea what the financial condition was of the company, and we made an offer to buy the company, of which he would not sell to us. And so we left July 3rd, July 4th, of 1985. And so we had a non-compete. He gave each one of us $150,000 to not compete for 6 months. And so during that 6 months, we met, we were going in business for ourselves, we were going to buy somebody, we were just brainstorming what we were going to do because we owned 75 trucks, 25 each, three of us, 25 each, that were owner-operators at Southwest Motor Freight. That was what was going to start our company. And during that 6 months is when the Lord started really dealing with me. And I made a decision. Matter of fact, I was up in Fall Creek Falls, Tennessee, Middle Tennessee, up here between Chattanooga and Nashville. In the month of September, I went up there at 28 years old. And it's when I said, God, I just feel like, and I sense in my heart that you're wanting me to do something else. And I sense in my heart that you want me to start my own company. And Father, let's make a covenant together. I will work hard, but Lord, I'm a good sales guy. And I remember I had this prayer to him. I'm a good salesperson. I will have freight. I'm a good operations person. I will deliver and give good service. Lord, I know nothing about maintenance. I don't want to go to a bank and ask them to loan me $10 million. I don't know how. And I said, but let's make a covenant together. And he's never failed me. Been in 2 years, in 40 years, I've been broke twice and just didn't shut the doors, just kept going. And the Lord always provided the payroll. That Friday, we'd always have the money for the payroll. And so the company just continued during a couple of tough stretches in the early 90s. And actually, when we all had issues in 08, 09, that the industry really had some issues.
So you listen to God, and he
Yeah.
showed you the way.
He showed me the way. We started with those 25 trucks I was talking about, and he
Did
showed
he
me
tell
the
you
way.
how to go get bank financing?
He helped me. As I went, he gave me wisdom. As I went, he gave me favor. As I went, he gave me understanding. So yes.
Yeah, that's 1986. You get rolling. What was? I guess we talked a lot with Max about kind of the pre-deregulation era
Yeah.
and just kind of how the ICC worked, and
Yes.
it was just a completely different
Yes.
world.
Yes, and it was.
And then 1980 when things changed, all of a sudden kind of the
Boom.
it was the Wild West, and
Yes.
you no longer had to go ask for permission to haul toothpicks out of Maine.
That's absolutely.
And so
Wilton, Maine.
that's
Forester Products.
yeah, that's what Max was talking about. And I was like, toothpick contract.
That's
Who
it.
knew? Who knew?
That's it.
And so what was your strategy getting going in 1986?
It's interesting because, on mine and Max and Pat's, I was the customer side of it. And actually we had about eight customers that we were going to start our company together before I decided to not go in with them. And actually we took the 8 customers and they took 4 of them and I took the other 4. And that started U.S. Express and started Covenant on that list of customers. And it is one that you continue to grow. But I also remember this. I remember my accountant that March, April of 1986 coming to me and saying, David, that $150,000 that you got on that non-compete, I'm about out of that money. We may ought to go get some more business. And so you have the same pressure whether you're running 25 trucks or 2,000 or 5,000 trucks. But it was definitely a different time under deregulation because at that time you just put a sales plan together and you went. This was only 6 years after deregulation because as you said, that happened in 1980. So this is 1986. So we were still at the early stages of post-deregulation, and it was a different environment.
And so were you doing all the sales at that point?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yeah, I did all my sales probably up until, I don't know, 700, 800 trucks. I was the only salesperson in the company.
Who'd you learn sales from?
I tell you, here's how you learn sales. You are 17, 18 years old, and you're working in sales and ops for that gentleman, Clyde Fuller. And he says, we need 10 loads out of Newark, New Jersey. And you're 18. Get on the plane. This is before you had yellow pages. You had, now where are you at? You turn right and you go down here and turn left. How do you get to the address? You didn't have the phones that allowed you to go there. So you go and you do not come back until you get 10 loads. And that's the way I did sales all my life was that. I would go, I'll never forget it, Covenant. I mean, the longest I went, I think, was probably 3 weeks. And I went to California. And I was running out of California. I went to Sacramento, California, and I was needing about 20 loads a week out of Northern California. And I got to a motel, no appointments, had no idea who the customers were, but I got into the yellow pages. And I would just sit there in the motel room and work those yellow pages until I found rice companies and different type products to haul, air freight companies, those kind of things.
Today's episode is also brought to you by Control Chain. Struggling to find loads? Control Chain offers a cost-effective solution for carriers to secure more freight contracts with reliable shippers. Plus, you get a free tool that automates tasks like managing order details, updating customers, and sending PODs. Say goodbye to spreadsheets, emails, and phone calls. With Control Chain, you can manage everything on one platform, from planning and execution to getting paid. Sign up at controlchain.com and start receiving loads today.
And so the legacy of Southwest Motor Freight was kind of coast, like long haul trucking out of the West Coast back here.
Transcontinental.
And so you kind of picked up right where that left off with Covenant.
Yes. That was our market. Our average length of haul when we first started this company was 1,600 miles.
Yeah. Which was long for that.
Oh, it was long. Yeah. So I mean, if it wasn't going to California, we would hardly not haul it. Mm-hmm. And so that was the first 20 years or so, and then as we grew, you had to diversify and get into other product lines.
Brokerage and all
Yes,
the other, and
absolutely.
then just other lanes.
Absolutely.
Too.
Other lanes, other brokerage, other types of freight, other type products, other type trucks, reefers.
So when you were building it, or when you first started the company, was it ever a question of whether you'd be based in Chattanooga or not?
No, it was home. It's interesting because this is, Freight Alley. I mean, I've heard all kinds of, discussions about, per capita Chicago, Chattanooga, those kind of things. But there's no doubt that Chattanooga is Freight Alley is very important to Chattanooga. And so it's been a great one. But it all started back, I would say, with Clyde, another Johnson Motor Express that was based in Chattanooga, but there was a couple that were just based. I say Clyde, my stepfather. There was a couple that were based here back in the 60s and the 70s. And so that really is what started, quote, Freight Alley. And then I think from there branched out in 1986. It became Covenant and U.S. Express. And then Ted Allen came on, in the 90s or 2000s or whenever it was that Ted came into the scene. Everybody couldn't, probably in the 2000s, but.
Yeah, I think it was like 2001, 2002.
Yeah, I agree. And so I think those three, because at the end of the day, probably what's existing today, in quote, Freight Alley, at one time worked for all of us.
Yeah.
And so, it's been, it's been good.
That's been kind of the trend we've been, the thread that's gone throughout all our conversations is the work that's been done by yourself, by Max, and then later by people like Ted, is kind of created like a center of gravity that's attracted a lot of talent, and obviously all that talent's been trained, and they've all percolated with each other, and
now they're starting on the second generation, and people will come from them and do their own thing. If you got the entrepreneurial spirit, you're not going to be happy working for Covenant or U.S. or Southwest or TED. You're not going to be happy at Access America. You're going to go do something else.
And what in 2000, so like another interesting thing is like the move from trucking to brokerage to technology that's kind of happened in this area too, because you kind of got all of it now.
Yes.
But when brokerage, because brokerage wasn't much of a thing before the 2000s, really, and really before the mid 2010s, it wasn't. It's kind of exploded since then.
Yep.
Like when was the first time you ever even thought about freight brokerage? I'm curious.
I used to hate a freight broker. right? I mean, you're asked that guy.
Yeah, for sure.
All they're trying to do is take my money from me. And so that was the attitude until you realize that if there's a load of freight, whether it's intermodal, whether it is freight brokerage, whether it is assets, the load is going to go the way the load's going to go. Mm-hmm. I can fight it. I can sit here and say, I tell you what, I'm not going to let intermodal take my long distance freight to California. You'll go broke because freight will gravitate to the proper mode that it's supposed to go. And that's the same thing with the brokerage, is that if that customer is wanting to be on an open market, is wanting to sit here and say, I'm willing to go today and I win today and I lose tomorrow, and I want a percentage of our business to be on the market like that, then that's the brokerage. I can sit there all day long and say, no, I'm going to charge you $2 a mile, but it's January and the rate's really $1.50. Well, I just won't move my truck. Mm-hmm. And so that's what led us. That was, I think we opened our brokerage in, 2006, if I remember correctly. So we're kind of 20 years, going on 20 years into the brokerage side of our business.
And when did TED and Access first come on your radar?
I remember when Ted was just getting out of school, early 2000s or so. And, we probably a bad decision we made is that we had discussions about starting one together, and I probably got too much. I wanted too much of it, and Ted wanted more of it than I wanted to give him. But he was right, and he did great. Yeah. And it's like looking back, boy, I should have jumped on that wagon. Yeah. But so we had conversations, and then he went and started his.
Did you ever give him any trucks?
On? Oh yes, if it made sense, and that's the way we do our brokerage today. Our brokerage today is $250 million of brokerage, and it's gonna go the way it's supposed to go. Yeah. And so we never, if we're sitting stuck somewhere, then we'll look, and if we want to haul it for whatever the rate is that our brokerage has, then we'll haul it. Mm-hmm. But it's not one of those that sits here and says, you are demanded to give us 10 loads a week.
Today's podcast is also brought to you by FreightFlex. Ready to take control of your future? Freight agencies are everywhere, but how do you pick the right one? At FreightFlex, we're proud to offer the #1 freight agent program in the nation, backed by an unmatched tech stack and a world-class support team. It's time to ditch the corporate grind and build your own freight agency powerhouse. Take charge, earn what you're worth. Contact us today for a tech demo and see why FreightFlex is where business owners are built.
It's funny the attitude, the kind of the old traditional trucking attitude towards brokers was obviously not something I was aware of when I started in 2016. And I remember going on a road trip from Phoenix, where I used to live, to California, and I saw a bunch of Heartland Express trucks.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to see if anyone's working with them. And I picked up the phone and I started calling them, and they were just like,
don't you ever call me back.
Literally, do not call here, kid. Like, you don't know what you're talking about.
You don't know.
Yeah.
We're not a broker carrier.
Yeah, they shut the door in my face pretty quick, and then that's just like a funny attitude. I mean, that's something that's kind of evolved? Would you say? Or
No, I would say that is the attitude of the past. Mm-hmm. That's the attitude that I had until 2006, when I decided from 1986 to 2000. So the first 20 years. Intermodal's not going to take my freight. Nobody's going to take my freight. I'm going to. These are my lanes, until they started getting into my business, and then you got to make a decision that says, how is freight going to go? And so when you make that decision, then it really knocks down the wall and says it's going to go the way it's going to go. So why shouldn't I be one of those people that's involved in that business and make a margin on it?
And so you started knocking down those walls in 2006, basically.
Yeah.
And do you do much intermodal now?
No, we've never been a big intermodal. We may do a few loads a month, but it's nothing. It's never been a major. Only through our brokerage, on the brokerage side, but we don't have an intermodal division.
Got it. And what's from a length of haul standpoint? I'm just curious how that's evolved.
Yeah.
Over 1600 or whatever when you started. Like, what's that look like?
On that segment, which we call our expedited division. At one time it was 1,700 mile length of haul. Today's 1,000 mile length of haul in that expedited. And then we own other dedicated companies and other companies that are we own one company. The average length of haul is 45 miles, and then our dedicated division is 270 miles average length of haul. Yeah, so
it's changed a lot.
It's changed a lot. Yes, because we keep them all segmented into dedicated, into our poultry division that's included in our dedicated, and into our expedited, and then into our brokerage, and then we actually bought another company from Ted, AAT, which is hauling for the Department of Defense.
Oh yeah, he was. Yeah. What does that stand for again? Something explosives and armor and
we call it bombs and bullets. It's bombs and bullets that you're hauling for the government, but it's very specialized and very difficult to get into, because it takes a long time to get DOD approved. Mm-hmm. Everybody and his brother cannot go out there and just say, I'm going to start hauling Department of Defense freight.
Thank God.
Thank God. Yes.
No non-domicile CDLs hauling.
No, none of those.
Bombs and bullets.
No, they're not. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah.
They would never get approved.
Trucking, then this brokerage world, and then that brokerage world kind of took off between, I guess, when Ted, and then they sold in 2014, and that kind of, in our conversations here, was a big moment for the city. Like, when that transaction happened, that kind of was like
when Coyote bought Access.
When people started paying attention to that, they were like, oh wow, like something's going on here. And then obviously what that meant was there were a bunch of people in the community who had found success and overwhelmingly seemed to stay and kind of invest.
Yes.
Continue to invest
I
in the
agree
city.
with that. Absolutely.
And that's kind of been a huge thing that's even continued to propel kind of the trajectory of just the whole ecosystem. So and that's really been the trend, is like everyone kind of tends to find success and then stay and then reinvest in the next generation. Is that true?
Yes, absolutely. That's what you see. And that's what I'm saying. All of us that started, quote, Freight Alley, and then the next thing you know, people left us, that generation left, they went and started it, and then that next generation of theirs have started it. Yeah. And so you have seen all this. And so all of us are virtually, I guess I may be the only one left of the original group that's still working.
What's keeping you here?
I believe I'm in God's will. My passion is here. I love this. I love coming to work every day.
Well, you got a nice office.
I spend about an hour a day in here. I'm downstairs in quote what they call the war room.
Oh, nice.
It's kind of where I hang out at.
Yeah.
But I just love it. I love looking at loads. I love looking at origins and destinations and rates, and that's what I love doing.
How do you figure out what you're going to spend your time on in the company?
I tell you, Paul Bunn, which has been with me about 16 years, and Paul's our president. He became president, I think February would be about 3 years, this coming February, doing an unbelievable, great job for me. Paul would answer that by saying, he'll say, I'll do whatever David doesn't want to do. And there's some truth to that. And that is, he runs the guts of this company and does a great job. But, if you got personnel issues, you go deal with it. I don't want to deal with that. I did for 35 years. You go deal with it. So I can pick a little bit.
You get to pick and choose your battles.
I get to pick. I'm going to make sure I'm involved deeply in, again, sales, top accounts, or up and coming accounts. I want to be involved in trucks and trailers and purchasing. I'll be involved in the ninth inning of the insurance negotiations. I'll be involved in a lot of those things, usually in the ninth inning, to make sure I agree with what we're doing.
Talk about buying trucks.
Yeah.
Because we were just talking to Max. He said he bought 85,000 Freightliners over the years.
Yes.
That's honestly something I didn't really even consider, like how fleets have to be really good at maintaining the fleet.
Yes.
And that's either, repair it or buy new equipment on some regularity. Like how do you even start to wrap your head around that when you're a 28-year-old kid, basically?
Yeah, you're exactly correct. Well, it's like everything else. It's like you going to the store and buying a pair of pants. You go and buy a pair of pants. Yeah. Same thing with the truck. Let's get them in here, and you figure out. I knew what I was paying for the 25 trucks that I owned, and I was pretty happy with those pricing. So that kind of gives you an idea of what truck prices can be. And then all of a sudden, you get your 2 or 3 vendors in here, and they dictate what the market. Same as our rates, right? I mean, at the end of the day, I don't set the rates. It's all of us carriers that set the rates. So it's the same thing with trucks, that the market will determine what the price is. And my goal is that the truck price is whatever the truck price is. I just want to be the cheapest on whatever the truck price is. And so that's the way in which we negotiate our equipment.
And right now you're heavily, and who have you acquired over? You Southern Refrigerated, correct?
Yeah, back in 1998.
That's when you bought them. Okay.
98.
And
98.
so you're primarily dry van, then a bunch of reefers.
We were, and we shut it down in 2020.
You shut down Southern Refrigerated?
Yes.
Oh.
And when March 16th happened and the world came to a stop, right? With COVID.
Yeah, sure.
The United States shut down, the world shut down, and all of us, you had no idea is this for 1 week? Is this for 1 month? Is this for 6 months or 2 years? We had no idea. We had trucks coming in, unbelievable, parking them up against the fence with no freight for about 2 or 3 months. That happened in March. In July, the freight was absolutely rocking in about a 3-month period of time. But during that time, from March, I walked in one day and told our management team, Paul Bunn at that time, Joey Hogan, that's on my board, was our president before then. But I said, guys, I've made a decision. We're shutting SRT down. And SRT is one we owned from 98 to 2020. Mm-hmm. And it just, in the refrigerated, there were a lot of great refrigerated companies. We weren't one of them. Mm-hmm. And our earnings would just be very volatile, up and down. For 10 years, up and down. And I'd work hard on it, and we get it down. Then somebody else would work hard on it and get it down, and it'd go back up. And so I just made a decision that the decision that was there at that time is that the government came out with the employees and offered, you may remember, they offered $300 a week of extra unemployment benefits. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you had whatever the state paid plus $300. And most of my non-drivers, because the drivers were going to be able to find a job, but most of my non-drivers, with what the government was offering, were going to make more money than I was paying them anyway. Mm-hmm. And so I said, if there's ever going to be a time, so we made the decision. A tough decision. Took I don't know, $30 or $40 million charge on equipment to get rid of it. those kind of things. But we got us out of the refrigerated, except for hauling produce on the expedited division. So we still haul produce. So we still have about 400 reefers, but we got out of about 2,000 reefers.
So we are cutting the interview right here. I highly recommend you check out the full interview that we have available only to our subscribers. You can go to print.freightcaviar.com to subscribe now. And like I said earlier, there's a 30-day trial. If all you wanted to do right now was just listen to the full interview and get your money back within 30 days, we'll even send you this print magazine so you can check it out. And if you don't like it, or if you just want your money back, we'll refund you. So there's nothing to lose. Check it out at print.freightcaviar.com. Once you subscribe, you'll get a link to our community and circle where the full interview will be in.